Hello, everybody. Welcome to part 3 of my going through my games list and ranking everything. I believe I am up to, yes, I'm up to Q. So I'm doing Q through Z. And then at the end, after I get through everything, I'll probably go through a couple games that I don't have on my list. Oh, I have some echoing going on. Ooh, that's not good. There we go. Okay. Let me know if you guys have an echo. I currently did on my computer, but I might be okay because I don't know if you guys are getting my desktop audio. So it should be good. I'll just continue as if everything's fine. Just let me know if you're hearing double voice or anything. Okay, so starting off on the list here. So I don't actually have any Qs at the moment, so we're jumping straight to R. It's just actually I should go through this just as a reminder of what kind of my list is here. A 10 is a masterpiece. I don't think I've had any of those yet. 9, loved it, so close to being perfect. It's basically like almost the perfect game, minus like one or two little things. We got 8. It's amazing. Now that's something I can get excited about. So it's basically something that I get very passionate about and very excited for. 7, awesome. It definitely stands out above the others. All of the 7, 8, and 9 are great games that I would love to have in my collection. All that. 6 is good stuff, worth playing, just not something to freak out over. So it's ones that I would like to play. They're fun, enjoyable, but like oh my god, this is amazing. Number 5, not bad, worth playing, nothing special though. So it's once again it's average, it's middle, it's a decent game. Number 4, I don't know if that was worth playing. It's kind of a toss up. It's one of those that like after you play it once, you're like, yeah, that's probably fine. Number 3, don't want to play again, would avoid playing. Though this is where it starts on my list of games that I don't want to play again. That 3 is basically I played it once. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Number 2, that sucked. It's a bad game. And number 1 is people actually spent time creating this, not worth my time. So in other words, I think 1 is the worst rating I can give anything. There are probably a couple games that I've played like that. I don't think I have any of them on this list, but we'll find out because we're going to go through. Okay, so next up is Raccoon Tycoon. Raccoon Tycoon is a very fun and enjoyable game where there's half of the game I love and half the game I'm kind of meh about. So let's jump in here. So there's this board here, and on the top are tracks of resources. And what you're going to be doing is as you play cards from your hand, you will be adjusting those resources up and down, and then you'll be collecting some of those resources. And so as the price of those go up, when you go to sell, you'll get even more money for it. And that is the part of the game that I love. The other part of the game is you are basically trying to collect railroads, kind of like the Monopoly style. You have like multiple railroads of the same type that basically are worth more the more you have. And then you're also building buildings to make your resource management a little more efficient. It's fun. It's good. Let's see. What would I give this? Raccoon Tycoon. I would probably say I'm going to give this a 7. I think that if a few mechanics and things were fixed in it, it could possibly go higher. Welcome, Andrew. Glad to see you here. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Reality Shift. Reality Shift is a game I own. I have not played it yet. I got it this last Gen Con. I understand how to play. I just haven't gotten it to the table yet, so we're skipping that. Red November. Okay, so this one I have in my previously owned, and there's reasons to that. I no longer own this game. Red November has a great concept, and it's a really interesting concept actually, where you have a submarine, and it's continuously flooding, and things are going wrong with it, and the other crew members are running around like crazy trying to seal off hatches, fix and repair things and everything, and you're running around the boat. It sounds great. It's a lovely game. A lot of the stuff works great in it, but there's one mechanic that kills the whole game for me, which is this mechanic right here. So you're a bunch of like gnomes or whatever on the Red November, which is the name of the ship, and when you go to pass through something, you could fail it. You need to do like a challenge, and if you fail the challenge, you pass out. If you pass out, you have to have somebody has to come over to you and wake you up or something like that, and then this ticks down. And every time you do one of those challenges, it also ticks down. So you end up you can lose on like the third turn of the game if you just mess up or two people mess up at the same time. So like to me, that's a really bad game mechanic to have. That's really a horrible thing to put in there. I will put this at a 3. If they would change that one mechanic, I think it would probably bust its way up to like a 5 or a 6. Really, I think it's that decent of a game. It's just that one movement issue that it causes a huge problem with the game, and I hate it. Okay, let's see here. Reef. Reef is next. Reef is a game about making coral reefs. What you and the other players around the table are going to be building out this. I'll move this over. There we go. You're going to be building out this reef in front of you on your side. You have 2 choices on your turn. You can either pick a card from the center or play a card from your hand. You can only have 4 cards in your hand, so you're limited on timing and placement. The stuff on the top of the card when you play a card lets you put stuff onto your board. The stuff on the bottom lets you score certain things. So when you place things on, you don't want to place them over or on top of what you're trying to score. And so it's this balance act to get as many points as possible. So yeah, it's super interesting, and yeah, I like Reef quite a bit. I think that Reef is probably I'm going to put Reef at a 7. I think it gets probably maybe more like a 7.5, but I'm gonna leave it at a 7. I think it's good. Resistance. So the Resistance is there's a lot of games similar to it. A lot of people compare it to Werewolf or Mafia. I hate those games. Like, I just can't stand them. The Hidden Trader games, specifically those. But this is one of the first Hidden Trader games that I ever played that did it right, in my book. Very minimalistic. There's not much going on here, as you can see. I actually have the right side of this. So all the stuff on the left is from the bigger box. I have everything on the right. That's the smaller box here. And it just basically comes with a couple yes-no cards, a couple, agree, disagree, and some tokens, and some character cards with some color. And that's it. So it's a really minimalistic game, but it does Hidden Trader very well because there's 5 missions. Each mission you take a different number of people on, and you, the leader of the mission, moves around the table as a card, and so a different person's the leader, and they get to pick and choose who's going on the mission with them. And I really like that. I think it's very nice because it can set things up really well for you. And with only 5 missions, the game goes really quick, so you can play 2-3 times without issue. When Resistance first came out, I would have rated it a lot higher than I would now. I've had a lot more time to play other Hidden Trader games and other games that do some of the same stuff and do it better. Right now, I think that I'm going to give that a 6. I think it's a good game. It's nothing that I think is in like the top tier. Now that I've played other games that do that same thing. Rhino Hero. So Rhino Hero is a really cute game. It's meant for younger audiences, but it's really awesome. So what you're going to be doing is it's sort of, think like Jenga, but reverse. You're building the tower, but the tower is made of cards. And when you place down a card with a rhino on top of it, you have to move that rhino to that floor, and you have to be careful on how you put it on there because it may want to flip the tower or cause it to fall. It's just a fun, cute little dexterity game. As you can see on here, there's it doesn't show it right here. You can kind of see some arrows, and that's how you have to put the cards on. And you're just stacking up as high as you can without knocking over the tower. Good dexterity game for people, something that people can enjoy and have a good time with. I would say that it deserves a 4. I think it is fun, but I don't know if it's worth playing a lot. So yeah, I don't know. There could be more elements to make it fun, but I think for like a kid's game, it works great. Ikari, it looks like you said that this looks frustratingly difficult. I know there's a delay behind some of the stuff, so I don't know which game you were talking about there, whether that's Reef, Resistance, or November. Or Red November. I just didn't see that. So, but I would the tower game. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think it's not difficult in terms of like, oh god, this is frustrating. It's more of trying to figure out how to balance things that's hard. It's yeah, I don't think it's that. As long as you have like steady hands, I think you'll be fine because the cards are ginormous and thick, so it's not like standard playing cards that you're trying to stack. They're like really heavy duty, like 3 times as thick cards. Okay, Risk. Everybody knows Risk. Risk is classic. So I have played multiple versions of Risk, and with Risk, there's so many different house rules and everything. Specifically, I'm thinking classic Risk. You're playing with Roman numerals on the board. I'm gonna give it a 4. It's kind of like it's a decent game, but too much is based on randomness. There needs to be a lot more stuff in there to make it more compelling and interesting, especially the board is, at this point, very boring for me. Risk 2210, which I also have. I've been debating about getting rid of this version of Risk because I don't think it adds too much. I think it deserves the 4 as well. It just gets the same rank for me. And then I also had Transformers Risk at one time. I've gotten rid of it, which is why it's going to land itself in a 3. It's not very good. Okay, Roll for Your Life, Candyman. Okay, this is a fast-paced rolling game where, let me pull up the image, where you and every player around the table has these gingerbread guys, and you're speed rolling your dice to try to remove elements from other people's pieces. You're trying to remove their arm or their leg or whatever and trying to basically take them out. And you want to be the last one standing. This is cute. It's fun. I think this is a great thing to play with kids. There was at Gen Con, they had a giant version, which I think was super cute. It's definitely, it can be fun with the right group and the right people. But once again, I feel like that in the end, it ends up being a better kids game than it does a game for a lot of adults. So I'm going to probably... I guess I'm going with a 4 with this one too. I can't believe I'm rating it the same as Risk, but I am. Wow. Okay. Skipping over Root, that's in my want to play. This next game, it will be interesting in terms of how I rate it because it's kind of a unique situation. So I do not own this game. I have never owned this game. But I played a game that was just like this, that was rethemed, which was called Jihad versus McWorld. And I will say I hated that theme. It kind of killed the game for me. But the game itself, the mechanics for the game, play interestingly. They basically, all of these pieces have an arrow on the one side, which is the top. So you play pieces down facing the other player, so it's pointing at them. And you are able to manipulate the pieces when you lay it down. And so essentially, you're only playing on a tic-tac-toe style board, a 3x3. But as you're playing, you are turning pieces over to your side, flipping stuff, removing pieces, doing a bunch of stuff. And the game is actually quite fun and has some good level of strategery. So I like the game, but I hate the re-implementation of it. So I'm gonna give it a 5 just because RRR is good, but the re-implementation of it is not as good as I wish it was. Okay, next up, Rummy Cube. Rummy Cube's a classic game that I've had since I was a child. I've played it multiple times. It's basically like playing 500 Rummy. The cover of the game shows it all. It's got an 8, 9, 10 in red. It's got all 8s. It's got 9 wild 11. So you can see that it works what you're doing. Basically, you're playing Rummy with tiles. And I think it's a very fun game. It's very enjoyable. And so for this one, I'm going to give it a 6. I think it's definitely good. It's worth playing. It's just not, it doesn't stand out above the rest because it is a re-implementation essentially of a game. Okay, so we did Roll for Your Life, Candyman. Now we will do Run for Your Life, Candyman. So I have an extensive history with this game because the company that made this, I've done a lot of stuff for, I've worked with in the past. And as you can see, the board looks exactly like the Candyman board, except for the thing that makes this different is you're playing it in reverse. So what you're doing is you are gingerbread guys escaping from Candyland, and you're trying to get out. If you make it all the way to the end, you have to get to the end by going through the gauntlet of children, the twins, the ones from the original game, trying to eat you and take you out. The whole point, though, is this isn't just a simple flip a card, move, flip a card, move. As you pass another gingerbread on this route, as you walk by, you attack them. And you attack them by flipping over a card and damaging them for, what happens and stuff like that. You hit them in certain pieces, their arm, legs, head, and get those removed. You can also have candy cage matches, which basically force you guys to keep attacking each other until one of you gets the right symbol to escape. It's hilarity. It's a lot of fun. It's a really enjoyable game. I would put this one. I would throw this at a 7. I think it's really fun, really enjoyable. You can play with kids, adults, especially if you ever go to Gen Con, you definitely need to play in the tournament because it gets really fun. Yeah. Okay, Saboteur. Saboteur is actually one of the games that I found that hidden trader isn't really the right word, but I would say hidden teams. So what you're doing is you're laying down cards to make a path through this cavern, and you're looking for jewels, you're looking for certain things, items and stuff like that to get you points. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to have your team win by finding the most stuff or making it to the end first. If anyone who's not on your team will not gain the reward like you did, and you'll get gold and stuff at the end to show your rewards so you can play multiple times and you might be on multiple teams. Nobody knows who's on their team, but you can assume through certain things. You can also, I believe there's cards in there where you might have to reveal or someone has to show what team they're on, so then you'll start to see people work together. This is a very fast-paced kind of better with more people type of game. This is one that I bowl out when I'm playing with 6, 7, 8 people. That plays really well because you're going to inevitably have people that you're working with to get points. And so everybody feels like they're involved in the game. And it comes in a very tiny box. It's essentially 2 decks of cards. So This game to me is up there. I have Saboteur and Saboteur 2 because it adds extra mechanics and you can merge them together. I'm giving that a 7. I think it's a really awesome game. It definitely stands out. I don't know any other game that is like that. Okay, Sagrada. So Sagrada is a dice placement game. Let me try to find a... So this is what the board looks like when it's complete at the end of the game. You'll have this stained glass window, which are all these like multicolored dice that are in these certain spots, which look great and is cool and all, but that's not what I want to show. I want to show what it looks like before that. Let me go to images. Do they have a board showing? Everybody likes to show their completed stained glass window. I want to see an incompleted one. Here we go. Okay, so this isn't perfect, but you'll get the idea. So essentially with this game, when it comes to your turn, you're going to pull out one die, put it on your board, and then eventually on that same turn, you'll put out a second die onto your board. And you have to work from the edges and work your way in. You can skip sections like they did here to leave openings. But the whole point is that you are going to be filling in using all the different colors. There's certain spots that, most of the spots are white in some of the basic level stuff. And then you'll have some that'll have colors and some that'll have numbers. And the goal is you want to fill your entire board correctly. So in all the yellow spots, you want yellow. In all the purple spots, you want purple. On a 4 spot, you want a 4. On a 3, you want a 3, and so on. And you want to fill that all out correctly as much as you can. And you'll also have endgame scoring bonus stuff for how many of certain colored dice you have or numbered dice you have. And so you have to try to plan and strategize around both of them. Sagrada is one of those great games because it takes a little bit of time. There's this downtime. So it's one of those that's like great to sit down and like converse with people and have a good time having conversation and then playing in the background. So I think Sagrada's pretty good. I want to I think I'm going to give it a 7 because like it's not something that I'm ever like, oh yeah, I can't wait to play Sagrada, but it's a good enough game that I'm almost always willing to play it. Okay, Sailor Moon Crystal Dice Challenge. I got rid of this game. Actually, I didn't get rid of it. I threw it away. That's how I feel about this game. I can explain the game in 2 seconds to you, and it's really simple. You have this card, someone else has the other card. You just go back and forth rolling the dice at the top, and as soon as you roll the die right down here, the yellow, and then people are trying to get your results. And as soon as they do, it gets crossed off your sheet essentially, and then when all of them are crossed off, the game over. It's not a good game. It's actually, I think it's 100% bad. It's based off of this other game called Button Men, I think, because it was originally on buttons. And people would, like wear the buttons and then they challenge other people. And that's way more fun than this would be. But this is also, it's the same game, it's just put onto cards. It's not a good game. And I do not like it. This one I specifically played, and I'm like, I cannot believe that this is a game. It is getting a 1. That is, it to me, it's trash. Okay. Seen It. I have 2 Seen It's. We have Seen It Harry Potter, which is Natalie's game, and we have Seen It Star Trek. I think the Seen It games are better games if you know the franchise. So I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Like I really like Star Trek Seen It because it challenges me. It's got a good trivia in it. The video stuff is kind of becoming to the point where like it's pretty easy for me now because I've gotten repeat clips and stuff. But the actual trivia questions and stuff are pretty good. Harry Potter I don't know as much about. So like to me, I think that like Seen It as a whole probably gets I would probably say it's close to like a 5. Overall, I'm going to have to give the Star Trek one 6 just because it's a franchise that I like. If it was, something I don't like, let's say it was seen at Doctor Who. I don't really watch Doctor Who, don't care. I would probably rate that as a 4. I think it just ranges up 1 or 2, up and down, each direction, depending on if you like or enjoy the franchise. Sea of Clouds. Sea of Clouds is a shorter game. You can play, I think it's up to 4 players, right? Yeah, 4. And I think it is best at 3 or 4, because if somebody goes after the same thing as you, it can be problematic and the other person might pull ahead. I'm going to pull up somebody's board here because it's a better way to do it. So you have a board, and there's 3 basically above, to the right, to the left, and below where you're collecting things. There's a bunch of different cards that you are collecting. You're collecting sets to where, like, the more you have of these things, the more points you're going to get. There's other ones that are just, this is victory per, like, on each card you just get this many victory. Then there's things that are like, oh, this counts as a replacement for this, or you can add this to any one of your things to make it better or more powerful. And then there's the attack cards that basically are specifically for attacking the other players. Overall, the game is simple and like easy to understand, and it plays pretty quick. I think it's like maybe a 20-minute game at most. The thing that make any others, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 rounds ish, I think, so from what it looks like on the board. So it goes pretty quick. It's really only 3 rounds, and each round has multiple turns or whatever. But the main mechanic that I like about this game is in the middle, there's 3 cards, and what happens is you get to look at the first card, and then you're like, oh, I don't want this card, it's not good, and you put it back, and you get to move to the second card and pick that one up to take a look at it. But when you pass the first one, a new card from the top of the deck goes on top of there, and so in that pile, there's more cards for someone to choose from next time. And so you keep going, and if you don't like any of those 3 piles, you can just grab a card from the top. But when you pass a pile, you 100% pass it, so you don't get to go back and grab it. So it's a high risk, high reward, kind of like, should I get this? Should I maybe get the next card? There might be something better. But I think it's really nice that builds out to make it more worth it for other people to do it and to get it. So Sea of Clouds has, there's a lot of common mechanics in it that are, it's fine, they're good, but I think that that middle pickup is interesting and unique enough that I'm going to put it at a 6. I think it's good stuff. It would really work well. I'm passing over Seasons because I do not have that. I've wanted to play that. Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is a game I don't hear many people talk about anymore, and it was such a huge thing for me back in, what year was that? It was when I first went back to Gen Con, which I think was like 2012, 14? I don't remember. This came out in 2011. Yeah, it had to be like 12 or 13. So I got the second printing of Sentinels, and I'm going to pull up some cards and stuff here. So Sentinels is a very big superhero game. Basically, you pick out a superhero, and these are unique, these aren't Marvel or DC superheroes. These are your own deck of superhero cards. And so you basically pick the hero and their deck, and you select from one of the different type, because there's multiple roles for that hero, so they can, you can pick a specific one, lay it down, and you are playing that deck. And you are facing off in an environment against a villain, and you could work 4 heroes against 1 villain, and that works fine because the whole game is scaled on doing damage by the number of players. So it'll say, oh, this does hero plus 1 damage. So in other words, it does 3 damage if you're playing with 2 people. And so things scale very well. And I have everything for this game. Even the deluxe big box that won't fit in anything, I have that. yeah, I have everything for this game. And the cards kind of look like this. They're very simple. Like, oh, it has 10 health. It's a device. This person's immune to damage when it's in front of them. One shot. Legacy deals 3 targets, 3 melee damage each. You know, like they're all just simple cards and they plays very simply, but the game in itself is really, really good. Okay, so, no, not Seasons, Sentinels. Sentinels is getting a 9. I really like this game, and the people who have played it with me also really enjoy this game. Sequence. So Sequence is a very simplistic, basic game. It basically is bingo, but with cards. Sequence works off of a big board in the middle of the table with what's going on, if I remember correctly, and you're trying to get so many in a row. I played Pacino, which is like very similar to this, but where you only have your own personal board. But I think Sequence you're playing in one main board in the middle of the table. I think it's a classic game. It's fine. I don't know if it's really worth playing for most people because it's way too simple. But as a kid, I liked playing Pacino a lot, which Pacino and Sequence are almost exactly the same game. Sexy Slang. This is a game that Natalie brought to our collection. It's essentially Pictionary / Actinary. Like you're either acting something out or you're drawing something, and it all has to do with like sexual stuff. So it could, it could be something like it doesn't have to be dirty, like chick magnet. Like okay, to draw that you draw like a chicken and you draw like a magnet, and people get that and stuff. So like it's all sexual, like themed in its content, but your actions and or stuff doesn't need to be that way. Your drawings could be very PG. It's fine. It's Pictionary. I mean, if you do Pictionary, you could do those words too. It wouldn't really matter, or charades or whatever. I'm gonna give it a 5. I think it's fine. It's not bad. It's not like, oh my god, I need to play this, but it's okay. Okay, Shadow Lord. I cannot rank this game at this point. I have this game. I own this game. It's super old. I have to reread. I played this as a kid. I have to reread the rules and learn how to play it because the game just looks bonkers. Like it has all these weird pieces. It looks super interesting. I just have not pulled it out since I was younger, and I have the box. So that's one I got to learn and relearn how to play. Okay. Shadow Rift. This is the game with one of the most worst written rule books I have ever seen. I will put it to you this way. Natalie and I learned this game together. We read through the rules as we played it. After we played one full game, she took the rule book and she ripped it up. It was that bad. We still have the game. The game is fine. The rule book was just written so bad. They've apparently released 3 versions of the rule book at this point, online and through like redistribution, because the version that we bought, which does not look like this, it looks like this one. I think that's the first edition, and it came with the worst rule book you could imagine. It's so bad. It was just horrible. Okay, but the game in itself is actually pretty awesome. So there's town cards that come out where there's people walking through the town. You're purchasing them to bring them into your hand. And what you're doing is you're building up might and money and stuff so you can buy stuff or battle. And you're taking care of the monsters that come into town. So that basically you're trying to save the town and you're trying to get points and stuff. It's a super interesting game. We've played it maybe about 5 or 6 times, and it's super enjoyable. But there's some of the stuff that we still struggle with because the rules still aren't the best written, and so this is one of those that man, I really want to um, really work on figuring this game out, and maybe I need to reread one of those new rule books because it was just that rule book was so bad. Yeah, I like this game. I think it's really good. I think it does stand out. I'm going to give it a 7. But man, that rule book was horrible. Oh, I gave that to Shadowland. That's not what I want to give it to. Delete, save, next one, 7, yes. Okay, Shadows and Kyoto I don't have. Want to play that. Shadows over Camelot, the card game. So there's a card game for Shadows over Camelot, and there's an actual board game for Shadows over Camelot. This is also a hidden trader game type of scenario. I did not care for this card game. It did not, you basically draw cards, you lay them in front of you into piles, stuff like that. I don't even remember that well how to play, but you're trying to basically beat your opponent, and you're also trying to, I don't even remember at this point. It's been so long. But yeah, I did not care for this game. I know that the board game itself is so much better than what this game showed. This one I'm giving a 3. I will definitely avoid playing this game in the future. Shark Attack, classic, old Milton Bradley game. I loved this game as a kid. It's so cheesy. You could win so easily just by hogging the dice and being like, oh no, I'm rolling really slowly when you're in the lead. It's cute. It's fun. I think it's worth playing, but it's not like a great game. So I'm going to give it a 5. I think it's definitely worth playing. Shelfie Stacker. Shelfie Stacker is a game where you are trying to build... we'll go here. You have a board that's right here that has a bunch of squares. It's basically representing a Cadillac shelf from IKEA. And you are drafting in dice to place into your board game shelf. And you have to have them go up in value. So you want like the big boxes on the bottom being 1, 2, or 3 or whatever, and you're building up and you're trying to stack as many games in your shelf as possible, and have their value go up. It's cute. It's fun. It's a good looking game. I think visually they did a really good job with it. I'm gonna give it a 6. I think it could have been better. There's some stuff about it that I do not care for, such as because you have to, like, nobody in their right mind would stack their game shelf having like, oh, I'm going to stack, big games on the bottom, small games on the top, and be like, oh, I don't have any more small games, so I'm going to leave this shelf empty. I think there could have been a better way to like build that into the game so you're trying to fill your shelf properly. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Shobu. Shobu is an abstract strategy game that is for 2 players only. The board and everything looks like this. Okay, and this one has a unique mechanic where basically you are going to be moving a piece passively, which means it can't push any stones, on your side of the rope that's in the middle. So let's say, I move a piece forward 2 spaces. Then on the opposite color, because there's a light and a dark color board, on the opposite color board, I get to be aggressive with that same move. So for example, in this one here, if this bottom right stone I move up 2, I could go over to this board, select this stone, and move it up 2, which would push this stone off the board, and then that would take care of that. The goal of this game is to get one board where you have none of the other colored pieces. So it's just going to be your, in this case, black pieces, and the other side it's grayish white stones. So yeah, your goal is to basically have one board that is cleared of anyone else's. And since you have to do that passive move on one of the 2, then the aggressive on the other color, it kind of makes the game seem interesting and definitely forces you to play a particular way. There's a lot more strategy in that game than I initially gave it credit for. Um, I'm gonna give it a 6. I think it's good stuff. It's worth playing. I do not feel like it's like, oh man, this is the greatest game, because it feels like that game should have existed already. I'm surprised it hasn't before, a little while back. Okay, Shogun no Katana. I can't do that one because I have not gotten that yet. That's a game that I ordered on Kickstarter. The Shobu game is a bit of a mind trip, Ikari says. Seems fun, but I think it would take me a moment to get the strategy down. It does. All it takes is one play. And the gameplay for Shobu is like 7 minutes to play a game. Maybe 10 if you're really slow at thinking. But when you play a game, you can be like, oh, okay, I get it now. And you can play another one and just crank it out. I actually think you would like it, Andrew. It's very simple. And it's easy enough as just drawing squares on a piece of paper and picking up like some cubes or like pieces of paper that you have colored or whatever, just to play it and test it out. But if you like it, I highly recommend buying it. The stones are really nice. The boards are really cool. It's worth it. Okay, skipping Shogun no Katana. Shooting Ladders. This is a game that I actually won a tournament for, and I still have the dog tag that I got that has all my kills on it from this game. It's super fun. So the Run for Your Life Candyman, this is like the sequel to it. You're playing a FPS on a shooting ladders board, which sounds crazy, and it is, but it's crazy awesome. Let me try to find a picture of the board. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, you were basically climbing up ladders, sliding down slides, and moving back and forth, shooting the other gingerbread guys, trying to kill them. The stars that are on this map here, depending on their color, they give you gear, items, weapons, and so on. And you are just trying to survive. There's also these metal plates that exist in between certain spots to block line of sight, to kind of help with the whole FPS style shooting situation. But yeah, like they get hit, multiple times. You rip off limbs, take them off. You're just trying to be last man standing, and at the end of the game, you have these piles of just limbs and everything. It's really cute. It's super fun, and it's an enjoyable game. I want to give this one. I'm gonna give it an 8. I like it that much. I like shooting ladders quite a bit. Skulk Hollow. Skulk Hollow is a 2-player game. It's basically Shadow the Colossus, the board game. If that doesn't sell you on it, I don't know what will. Let me find I need to find the board so you can see how it looks. I need a picture. That'll work. Okay, so up top here you'll see, actually I'll just do this. Yeah, up here you'll see that's the standard board. You got a giant meeple moving around with your little guys that will be moving around. Over here, God, it's really hard to see it. But essentially, once you have to do certain things to basically get up onto the Colossus-like enemy, and you will be moving from point to point on them and attacking them to try to drop their health at certain locations. If you're on certain locations, they have cards that can throw you off and do things to you and everything. And as the foxes, you'll be having a plethora of guys that you'll be sending out, but they're all weaker and they all are very specific. Where the big monster, depending on which one of the 4 that you choose, is a little bit slower. They only can do certain things, and they're a little bit limited. But it's a really interesting concept, and I think that the game does a very good job. Let me see, is this a better? No, that just shows that. I wish there was a better. Yeah, here, this might show it. Yeah, you can see like the little dotted lines, and there's basically a path from like their foot or some spot to climb up on them to go and do all these things, and you have to do certain things in certain areas to take them down. Yeah, it's super fun, super cute. Yeah, I really like it. I've only played it a few times. but it's one I definitely need to get to the table. I think it's definitely unique compared to others. Slay the Spire, the board game. I passed that up on Kickstarter. I do have it on here as pre-ordered. I just couldn't afford it at the time. It's one I definitely want to get, so I'm just going to skip that for now because I have not played it. Small World. Small World is one of the earlier games I got into in this hobby. Once I started getting in, Small World was one of those games that everybody talked about. I think it was like a staple of the tabletop community. In this game, what you're doing is think Risk, but nothing is done with dice. Everything's done with the amount of pieces you have. And the strength of your guys basically get diminished really quickly. You have a character race, or a race and a power, and they get connected together to create these. You have tokens that can do certain things that have an ability, and then when you can't really do too much with them, you put them into decline, which basically puts them in a spot where they just sit there and you can't use them anymore, and then you pick a new one. And you're continuously trying to like take over other people's stuff, try to keep as much presence on the board as possible. So every turn you get victory for how many spots you have on the board. And you're going over a series of 9, 10, 11, 12 rounds, depending on the people, trying to get as much victory as possible. It's a fun game. It's really good. There's a lot of combos now with there's been so many expansions for this game. It is a good game. It is one that I definitely understand why people got into and people really like. I'm going to put this as a 7. I think it has just enough to make it into those like recommended areas. Especially for people who like love Risk, who's looking for like another area control, right there. Smartphone Inc. is one that's on my wish list. I would like to try that at some point. I have not been able to. Smash Up. You'll see I have a bunch of Smash Up here. These are mostly expansions. Because there's only one base game. Smash Up is amazing. I'm going to say right now, it is an incredible game. One that I enjoy thoroughly. Let me find something. Where are the bases? Give me a base. Okay, we're gonna go with this because this will work. So you're gonna have a hand of cards, and in the cards in your hand there's two types of cards. There's minions, they have a number on it, and there's actions. They're the ones that don't have a number on it. Okay, and in the middle of the table there's going to be bases. These bases have numbers on the top left, a number sequence, and then a power on the bottom. These powers could say anything of, if you win this base, you get this. Or when placing a minion here, this happens. When someone plays an action this game, this happens, and so on. You're going to be placing your minions down on these bases until the value of everyone's minions added up pop that base, meaning it goes over the number. When that happens, the person in first gets the first number, person in second gets the second number, and person in third gets the third number. And generally, there also could be a benefit that, if you win or you get second place on this base, this happens. So everybody's fighting over these bases. On every single card, no matter what card you lay down, they all have abilities and can all do stuff. That's the fun in this game, is because there is, I want to say at this point, 70-some factions. So, you hear the whole, pirates versus ninjas, zombies versus robots, whatever. All of those factions, everything you could think of, is in this game. You really like Star Wars, they have astronauts, which are essentially, Jedi. You want to play Pokemon, they have itty critters or something like that basically work like Pokemon. You want to do Power Rangers, they have a freaking Power Rangers thing. Whatever thing you can think of, this versus that versus that, you can merge them with something in this game to create a cool deck. And that's why this game is really good. Smash Up, I've played it so many times. It is highly regarded by me. It's getting a 9. I'm always willing to play Smash Up. People aren't always willing to play Smash Up with me, but I'm always willing to play it. Someone Has Died. I got to play this game. This is the one that I have. I got to play this game, and this is one of those games that was being prototyped. and I got to play it in that format, and I loved it. I thought it was a great game. It was very enjoyable. Oops, I didn't mean to close it. Essentially, what happens is one person plays they're the judge or whatever, but they're playing the person reading the will to everyone, and everyone gets to try to explain why they should get the money and this person shouldn't, and their whole situation with that, because it's about I want this, I want that. So it's a super fun and interesting game, yeah. I really like this one. I think it's fun, but I don't think it really came out. It's really hard to get your hands on it because I think it only ran on Kickstarter for a short time. I want to say I think there's other social games that do it a little bit better, but I want to give this a 5. I think it's really good. Oh, hey, Angela. Glad you could join us. Join me. I don't know why I said us. But yeah, I'm glad you love Smash Up. I do too. It's a fantastic game. We should play Smash Up sometime. I bought this game. I don't think I own this anymore. Sorry, Revenge. It's basically mimicking Sorry as a card game. I could not tell you anything about this game. That's how little I remember it. I think I got rid of it. I'm not even going to bother putting it on there. SOS Titanic. It's a game I want to play, want to buy. There's a new version of the old game releasing this year, I think, in 22/23. So I will be probably getting that this year because it's a solo game. Soul Raiders, a game that I also don't have yet. That one's I pre-ordered from Kickstarter, waiting on that. Space Alert, want to play. Spark Raiders, Kickstarter, waiting to play it. Oh, Spectrum, that one I do have. I have not played this game, but I know exactly how it works. This is based off a YouTube series called Spectrum, where they bring up topics and people go to where they agree or disagree and they talk about it, and it's now put into a social party game. I'm probably going to use it more as a topic of discussion game where we bring stuff up and talk about it. But yeah, you can somewhat agree, strongly agree, disagree, and so on. And you about these could be serious topics, But they're also single stuff like I'm smarter than the average person, or it could be controversial stuff like cancel culture and politics and all this kind of stuff. So I think this game will be really fun. I think it'll be really great. I'm going to judge it probably as I'll go with a 6 because I don't think everybody should play it. I probably won't recommend it just because it'll be a game that I use to do stuff. The Spill. Sorry, my throat's hurting. Talking a little too much. The Spill is a cooperative game where you and up to multiple other people, it's a 4-player game, sorry, excuse me, are trying to save animals from a spilling oil rig. So the outside of the board is where you move, the inside of the board is where all the oil spills out, and you're moving around the board, cleaning up oil, saving animals, and trying to get to the point where you've saved enough animals and stopped enough oil from coming out to succeed. It is very hard. There's a lot of ways to fail in this game, and even at the base difficulty, I've failed before. Once you start to understand the powers and the abilities, and you can learn how to communicate between players, it gets a lot easier, and it's way more fun. And you just need a couple lucky dice rolls too, and you can succeed. You can get boned right away though too, because the dice rolls can come out really bad. But that's what makes the game fun, is the trying to figure out the puzzle. So I like The Spill. I think it's a great game. I'm going to put it at a 7. I think for a cooperative game, it works really well to work on something like that. Spyfall. So I recently just got rid of this game. I gave it to my friend Matt. And the reason is it never came out. I didn't play with 6, 7, 8 people all the time, and this is best in a game when you're playing with a bunch of people. And the reason being is this game is set up like this. It comes with a bunch of cards, and there's, let's say, 8 cards that all say space station. And in one of those cards in there also says spy. So you shuffle it up, you hand it out to everybody, and one of those people is a spy. And everyone else is on a space station, and then you have a role. Like one will say like astronaut, scientist, whatever. And you're asking each other questions like, oh, what do you usually, wear in the typical day? And you're trying to, you as the people who are there are trying to rat out the spy. You're trying to see like what the spy would be. Because if you're on a space station, you go, oh yeah, walk around in my swim trunks and everything because they think they're at a beach. You pretty much gave yourself away. But someone might be like, oh, I'm wearing, just pants and a t-shirt, and you're like, that was not descriptive enough. You can ask them like stuff like, what is your typical day like? How heavy do you feel? Like you can ask specific questions that'll like lead to a better answer. Because like in the space station, if you ask how heavy they feel, oh, I'm pretty light on my feet. I'm good. That they know, where we're at. So you were able to like curve away from that. And the spy's job is they want to stay along live enough to be able to guess where everyone's at. And that's the goal. I think it's a really good game. I like it. It gets a 6, but it just never came to the table. So I got rid of it. Oh, not this one. And I gave it to someone who I knew would use it more than I do. Star Realms. I do not have enough experience in this game to really give it a good score. A lot of the things about it are really interesting, though. There's a bunch of cards. They have different factions on the top left, values on the top right, special effects on the bottom, and you'll get certain victory and stuff by having them in your deck and in front of you. It's just not a game I've played very often. The 3 times that I played it, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but for right now I'm giving it a 5. Because I don't think it's anything special, but I do think it was a very fun game when I did play it. Oh, Castle Panic. This is Star Trek Castle Panic. So Star Trek Panic. I wouldn't know why Castle Panic would be in S's. But this is the game Castle Panic, but for Star Trek. This is one of those games, that theme game. If all theme games, if they are basically this other game but with a theme on it, if you love that theme, you're going to rank it higher. If you dislike that theme, you're going to rank it lower. I think this is a good game. I think it's fun. It's a little fiddly compared to original Castle Panic. I don't even know what I gave Castle Panic on here. But I'm going to probably rank this 7. I think it's good enough. If I was suggesting Castle Panic for someone, I would suggest the normal game, the regular one. Maybe not after the special edition they just released, but I would give them the normal one. For me, I would rank this as a 7. Star Trek Ascendancy. Star Trek Ascendancy is everything I wanted in a real-time strategy game for Star Trek, a la like Star Trek Armada, on the table. Like, it looks great. It feels great to play. There's some stuff about it I'm not a fan of. But overall, the gameplay is really nice, and the mechanics and the system for the game work really good. And I'm a huge fan of Star Trek. I'm giving this one 7 or 8. I'm going to give it an 8. I got really excited about it. I'm giving it an 8. Okay, Star Trek Attack Wing. Whew. Okay. Hear me out. Star Wars X-Wing will come up here in a little bit, and they are almost the same game. Almost. But here's going to be the major difference. I love Star Trek Attack Wing. It's a great game. It plays well. It's fantastic. The bad part about it is it's managed by WizKids. WizKids does good on some games and horrible with others. They have done such a bad job with Star Trek Attack Wing. they have gotten better over the years, a lot better. I full-heartedly love this game. I'm disappointed that WizKids runs it and they manage it. But this game is fantastic. I've spent way too much money on this game. So with Star Trek Attack Wing, it's getting a 9. I want to give it a 9.5. I love it that much. I gotta see which game that Kari was talking about. To Star Trek Attack Wing 2 to 99. Okay, yeah. So the reason why it's 2 to 99, it's a 2-player game. Full-heartedly, it's a 2-player game. But you can always add another person to a table. I think the most I've played this with is we did a tournament at a place where we did, I think it was like 23 people, but each table had 5 people on it. And so after each table got eliminated, the person went through a wormhole and appeared on the other table. So it was broken down and modified. You could not play this well with 99 players. So I say this is a 2 to 4 player game because you could play as a team towards others. I think I've played a 5-player game and it worked out really, really well for myself. But yeah, it's definitely not meant for 99 players. There are other games that you could do that way, but this is not one of them, I don't think. But it is a fantastic game, and I could sit here and talk about Star Trek Attack Wing all day long. Because, yeah, it's probably... I want to give it a 10, but it just doesn't deserve it because WizKids. And that's all I got to say. Star Trek Catan. I have almost no complaints for Star Trek Catan except for one, which is the resources. In Star Trek, they don't have to worry about food and water because, they have replicators and things like that. So why food and water are a resource in this game, I have no idea. It's, space game, food, water. I hate it. It bugs the crap out of me. Visually, the game looks great. Looks cool, fits the Star Trek theme. Yeah, if I could change 2 things, it would be the resources would not be food and water for 2 of the resources. Food, water, and oxygen. Just replace them with other stuff from the Star Trek universe. Yeah, the replicator could be broken. The other thing that I think they should have done is I think each color should have been a race from Star Trek. So you have the Federation, the Romulans, the Klingon, the Dominion, Cardassians, Ferengi, whoever. They could have done that too, but then that would require different ship molds. Game would have probably cost more. It's fine. I think it's a fine game. It's Catan. It's Catan, but with a little bit extra. I'm going to give... I'll give it a 7. Probably just because it's Star Trek. It probably is a 6. The one bonus thing is I have a signed copy from Nichelle Nichols, which was Uhura in the original Star Trek or original series. I have her signature on the front cover of mine, so that's cool. Star Trek Galactic Enterprises. That is a bidding kind of Ferengi game. I really don't feel like it's... There's not much to show you because it's just like a couple cards and some tokens. I'm just going to give that one a 5. A 5. I think it's great and fun to play once or twice, but then it dies off really quick. Star Trek the Dice Game. You can't buy this game. You can only play it either if you print it yourself, which I will eventually do, or you play it online through like Tabletop Sim, which I've already done. This is a 1-player game only. These are copies that people have printed out themselves of the game. It is fantastic. You roll dice, you place the dice in certain areas to do special effects, certain things to attack, to place it on cards, do abilities, all this kind of stuff. It is a fun game. It's very enjoyable. Your goal is to get through the five years of missions within the time that you are allotted without dying. I think it's a very fun game. It's really good. I think this is one of the top Star Trek games besides Attack Wing. It gets an 8 for me. It's really good. Okay, Star Wars X-Wing. Okay, let me blow my nose and I will start talking about that. Okay, so Star Wars X-Wing and Star Trek Attack Wing are very similar. Okay, the models in X-Wing are way better. Like, they did a way better job making the models and doing that. The thing that lacks in X-Wing is customizability. Is that every pack that you buy comes with like 5 or 6 cards. So you know, like, you get the one or two different ships with different pilots or whatever, and then you get like a small amount of cards, and they're those like tiny cards. And some of those cards are duplicates of other cards. In Attack Wing Star Trek version, you get all new cards all the time, and each pack you get way like double to triple the amount of cards. And so even though the models are better in this game, the replayability and the variability that you have is lacking, especially with there are more options in general in Attack Wing, where this, it limits you to being like, oh, you want a weapon on your ship? You have to pick this specific type, and there's only 3 cards that are like that. So to me, X-Wing is not as good as Attack Wing. It's not a bad game. It's great. I'm going to give it an 8. It's really good, especially if you love Star Wars. It will not hit the table as much as Attack Wing will for me. Okay, Starship Samurai. Okay, Starship Samurai is a... Starship Samurai is a game with like spaceships and then giant mechas. And what you're doing is there's these planet locations, and you are sending troop deployments there, you're influencing stuff, and your whole point is to have military power in that area, so that way when time goes and happens, you get that card, that planet, and that influence to adjust the board and affect it in a positive way for you. It's very fun, but I have not played it as much as I would like to. I got this a few years ago. It's very fun. My favorite mechanic is you have a 1 through 4, and you get to place that on one of your actions, and you get to do that action 1, 2, 3, or 4 times, depending on which one you put on. And I love that. I think it's great. But it just doesn't make it to the table as much as it would. One, because the miniatures are gray, so I have to paint them yet. And I have like them partially painted, so they're not even in the box. And then number 2, it's not a very welcoming game to people. People don't go, oh, that game looks awesome, and wants to play it. So it doesn't make it to the table that much. Starship Samurai gets a 6. Oh, we're going to delete this. I had an old review on there that I did as a favor. Getting that off of there. Okay. Story War. Story War is a simple storytelling kind of game where it's just like a this versus that. Let me pull out. So on your turn, you pick a card and lay it down, and then you all reveal, and you're like, oh, it's vampire versus dwarf versus gremlin. Okay, and then you will play cards on those by trying to explain why your card could beat the other one. Being like, oh, well, my gremlin can beat your guy because he's holding Excalibur. And none of the cards actually do anything, but it's like explaining it to a judge. So this is one of those like story games that are very much up to the opinion of the person judging, like Apples to Apples, Cards Against Humanity, or any of those other games. This is one that is ranked very low to most people, but I actually really like it. I'm going to give it a 6. I think its replay value is really low, but that's why when I bought the game, I bought the extended box that had a bunch of blank cards so I could fill it out. Okay, Student Bodies. Student Bodies is a game that came out by, Duck? What's the Angry Duck Games. And visually, I will have to say the game looks interesting. It's a zombie setup scenario. You're trying to make it across, get yourself a cure, pop it, and get out of the school because you know that the cure is in the lab or whatever. And there's different setups for the map to get it set up differently, and you have different characters, and you're running through, and you're trying to make it through. You don't care what happens to anyone else. It's fun. It's an enjoyable game. When I first played it, thought it was great. Thought it was really fun and interesting. It was a nice change of pace for a zombie game. Then I played it a second and third time, and it felt like I played the exact same game. The replay value was not there. It was just not as enjoyable as it visually appeared in the beginning. I'm gonna put it at a 4. I don't know if it's worth playing. I really don't know. Actually, sorry, I gotta bring it down to 3 because I got rid of my copy. I'm gonna do that because everything 3 into 1 I've gotten rid of. So that I got rid of. Okay. I will have to skip this one, Super Dungeon Explorer. We have it. Natalie kickstarted it. It looks super good. It looks super great. We haven't played it yet. There's a lot of miniature painting to go on before we can do that. I know a bunch of them are painted, so we can probably get a scenario going. But we have not played it yet. I actually have the video game for it, so I can learn how to play it before we sit down to play it, so that'll be nice. Sutaku. Sutaku is a dice stacking game. It uses Japanese symboled dice, and what you're doing is it's real simple. You're gonna be rolling 3 dice. You need to stack at least 2, and you're stacking from low to high. So like your first roll, you roll a 1, 2, 3. You can stack your 1, 2, 3, or you can just stack the 1, 2, and then you can re-roll. And so you'll get 2 new dice. You always roll 3, roll again, and you're trying to stack on top. And you're trying to get as many dice as you can high, because at the end of the stack, you are counting how high it got times the number that is on the top of that die. So if you made it to 6, and you have 10 dice, you got 60 points or whatever. And you write that down, and that's how many you get that round. And you play a bunch of different rounds, and whoever has the most after so many rounds wins it. It's a simple game. It's pretty cool. It's something to do to pass the time and just kind of talk as a family. I think it's a good family weight game. I'm going to put this at a 4. I don't know really if it's worth playing. You could just do it with normal dice. You don't need to buy it, but those dice are cool, and they're super chunky. And love seeing the Japanese writing on there. That messes with a lot of people though, because they don't know it. So yeah. Okay. Sword Crafters. Sword Crafters is a... Oh my god, there's no pictures out there for this one. Okay. There's a bunch of square tiles, which you can't really see, but this red one here, that's a tile. What you're doing is there's these tiles out on the board. You pick up a tile and you get to add it onto your sword, and you keep putting it on your sword. And the tile has two directions. They have the front and the back or whatever. And you're making this sword. And at some point at the end of the game, you're totaling up how much you have of certain things, and you get certain points for having more of these than others. And it's just a cute game to craft these swords, and it looks really cool to have a bunch of swords sitting on the table at the end of the game. I need to play this again to see if it's worth keeping. I loved the gimmick when I first got it. I still think it's cool today, but I don't know if it's something that will have staying power in my collection. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I'm giving it a 7 because I've never seen that mechanic anywhere. Tang Garden. Tang Garden is generally considered my number 1 game that I have in the traditional tabletop space. Just look at that board. It's gorgeous. You are on your turn laying tiles or decorations or even scenery on the outside. And you're just building that over the course of the game while you're building up your players, getting people, placing them out there. is an incredibly beautiful game. I recommend this game to so many people. Um, they have 2 expansions, which I have, and then the 4th game expansion was on Kickstarter, and I got that too with a big box to put it all in. I thoroughly enjoy this game. It is usually number 1 on my list for my games. So I'm giving it a 9. It deserves it. It is the. I'm giving it a 10. It is, to me, it is that good of a game. There is very few things wrong with Tang Garden to the point of I consider it almost a perfect game. It deserves that. I really wish I didn't have to do, like, out of every game, that I consider that a masterpiece. It's just great. Tanto Core. Tanto Core is essentially just like Dominion, a game that I previously did before, except for instead of random, a village, a smithy, stuff like that, a workshop, it's anime girls. And you collect love instead of money. The anime girls work the same. They have a certain name that triggers like their abilities and stuff like that. It's like, oh, this person does this twice, this once. You learn that after a while. It is a very fun game. It's very enjoyable. I don't think it's as good as Dominion. I think that does it better. I'm still giving this a 7. I think it's pretty good, and we have a lot of the expansions for it. Telestrations, also known as Telephone Pictionary to a lot of people. What you're going to be doing is you're going to write something on the front. I have no clue what this drawing is. We're going to look at this drawing. Guy fishing for a cow. Interesting. Okay, yeah, so as you see how there's like 8 tabs here. On the first one, the 0 tab, you're going to write something down. So I could, in this case, I'm guessing it's fishing. And then a bunch of people, someone drew someone fishing, and they did a really bad job of it. And then somebody put fishing for a cow, and then it switched to this or something. I have no idea. But basically, it's like telephone Pictionary. It goes back and forth, and at the end, you look through, and everybody gets a good laugh out of it. Telestrations is fun and interesting. I would give it a 5. I think you could do it with a pen and paper. You do not need to buy the game. It's actually more fun that way, because then you draw with pencils instead of dry erase, because dry erase sucks. Yeah. Tentacle Bento. I've played this once. Natalie and I played this. She picked it up at a convention, I think, or at a store, and it's just this like cute anime game. I have nothing to say about it. I do not even remember how it plays. So, Tesseract. This game was just recently on Kickstarter. I backed it. It is amazing. I've played it multiple times already. It is fantastic. I want to play this over stream sometime, but I have to ask if that's okay. This is a great game. I love it a lot. It just, the presence that it has on the table looks really good. It's strategic. You're trying to put as many of these cubes into the containment as possible, and you're trying to fill this up before the cubes are all gone. And yeah, it could just be disastrous. Like, it's such a cool game. I really like it. This is one of those games that's vying for my top position. It's getting a 9. I don't think it's a perfect game. It could be. I just need to play it more to find out. I don't know enough about that. Okay, Those Pesky Humans. I really like this game. This game is super, super interesting with the way it's set up, which is essentially... Oh, those are just the piles. There we go. The person who's playing the monster lays out the dungeon how they want. They hide all the treasure chests and put the things down in the rooms where they think they should be. And then they start in their boss room. And then the heroes go and they come in, and all the heroes, everyone's playing 1 or 2 person, and the boss monster controls all the enemies in the dungeon. And so the whole point is you're trying to stop the heroes and kill them all, and the heroes are trying to kill you and take your loot and get out of there. It's fun because it's a one verse many game, and there's not a lot of those. There's really not. This is one that I would suggest for people who like playing D&D and people who like that kind of that dungeon crawl theme. There are some issues with the game. It doesn't play as nice as it should. There are some like questionable, like, wait, how does that work type of situations in this game. So for me, those pesky humans, I would probably give it a 5. It's fine, it's good, but it's not my style of game, and I realized that after playing it a bunch of times. Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef. This is probably my second top worker placement game. The game, besides being... Oh, I should have gone to the next one. Let me go grab the other one. Other screenshot. This one. Either being utterly beautiful as a game. The pieces and components are fantastic. The card quality is amazing. And the game itself just plays so good. On your turn, you have your miniature and multiple discs. You're going to a place on the board. That place is locked out. No one can go there. You go to another place after everyone else is gone, and you're leaving those discs behind. And then your miniature is the last one you place. And you are trying to gain fame and be the best Tidal Blade. And all of that, to do that, requires so many different things. You need to attack monsters, complete quests in certain areas, gain the favor of the judge, and you need to like upgrade all your stuff. There's so much in this game. It's so packed, but it's so good. I suck at dice rolling, and this has one of the best dice mitigation things that I've ever seen. You roll a die with your other dice that you're trying to complete stuff with, and if you fail, you can block those failures to re-roll. And if you collect enough failures, you can turn that dice into whatever you want, which is so satisfying to be like, I suck at dice rolling, but hey, I'm able to convert this die so I don't have to lose anymore. And so it's a really fun game. I'm giving Tidal Blades a 9. I want to give it an 8, but it's going to be a 9. 8.5 is what I want to give it, but it's going to be a 9 because it's that good. Oh, God, I have way more on here than I thought. Tiny Epic Galaxies. Tiny Epic Galaxies is a fun little space exploration game where you have ships, here's your home system, and you'll be traveling from here to planets. Here we go. Be traveling to the planets. If you land on the planet, you get to trigger the ability. If you land in orbit the planet, you can work your way across to gain the planet. Once you move your ship all the way to the end, rolling certain dice, you will gain this much victory, which is great. Your victory will enable you to upgrade your home planet, home system, which will also move up your victory, as well as, you'll get more ships and better stuff over time, more dice. This is a very good game. I've played this solo a bunch because it just plays so quick and so well. It's getting an 8. It's really, for how small of a game it is, it's really good. Tiny Epic Mechs. I gotta give it a 5. I bought it, thought it'd be really fun. It was not to me. It's a programming game, so you have to like pre-program your movement, and if somebody goes a different way, you're just like, oh, I missed. Like, it just does not feel very satisfying. It's one of the games that I was disappointed that I pre-ordered. Tiny Epic Pirates. I have not played yet. I have it. I've had it for a while. I feel bad, but I haven't played it yet. And I have the deluxe edition which came with the expansion. So, yep, I'm passing over that. Tiny Footprint. Tiny Footprint is a surprisingly interesting game. I believe the entire game is made from reusable or recycled product. And the game is designed as a thing to like, here's how to reduce your carbon footprint. And you have to work together as a team to try to reduce all like emissions and here, what is it? It doesn't even say. I can't see. Yeah, because you're reducing all these different areas, these 4 different areas of like transportation, energy usage, consumption, and something else, and you're trying to reduce them all to zero. And so it's a very specific game to our current times that makes a lot of sense. And I enjoyed it. There was one thing I might have a problem with in the game, but I need to play it a few more times to find that out. I'm gonna give it a 6 though. I think it's a good game. It just if that one thing becomes a problem, it's probably gonna drop down to like a 4 or a 5. But if it's not, it might actually jump up with a couple more replays. Tiny Towns. Tiny Towns is, it says 1 to 6, but Andrew, this one can also be done with up to 99 players because I saw it at a convention done with over 150 players, which I thought that was really cool because it's sort of usually on the player's turn they're supposed to call out a resource, but what they did is they pulled the resources from a deck when playing with that many people, so that way everybody was playing the same thing, which I think is cool. What you're doing in this game, though, is you have a 4x4 grid, and somebody says, I want glass. You pull the cube that represents glass, and you place it somewhere on your board. And you do that with everything, and there are certain shapes that you can build with the cards that are available to merge. So it's kind of, you know how you have those games where it's like, oh, 3 grass, you push them together and they become a bush, and then 3 bushes become a tree. That's essentially what this is. But this is, this shape with these colors become this object, a house or a farm or a bank or a whatever or a factory. And so you're basically making this little town by merging all these shapes together, and eventually you're going to run out of space and run out of spots to put stuff. And then when everybody has run out, the game ends. It is a very enjoyable game. I really like it a lot. I'm giving this an 8. It deserves really good praise for what it's done. Titanium Wars. Titanium Wars is a game I would love to play more. This is actually it has a really good written rulebook. It's laid out so good. I only needed to read through it once to understand how the game's played. But the game is not as satisfying as it could be. So you play like a faction, and in that faction you're going to be buying ships, and you're going to be sending them to war to take over a planet, or to really like conquer, to say, hey, that planet's ours. And it's meant to play with 3 or more people. I think it should only be played with an odd number of people. And the reason being, and specifically 5. 5 is the best. Because let's say me and you go to war over something. If we're only playing 3 players, we're drained of resources. The next player comes in, they can just instantly take the thing with no issue, and they still have all their resources, which is a huge problem, which is why you need to play with 5, because 3 people could get into war then, and then 2 people, and then another 2 people, and then 3 people. So like it's more even and it feels better. I think this is a good game, but it needs to be played with the right amount of people, and so it loses its ability to do well because of that. And I'm going to give this actually a 7. I think it's that good. Okay, Tower of Madness. Tower of Madness is a game that falls under the whole theme of Cthulhu, and it is essentially, it's Cthulhu Kerplunk, but it's not Kerplunk because that's all done randomly. These tentacles are in this tower in a very specific way. And it allows for dice to fall out, or not dice, marbles to fall out very easily. And so when you pull one, almost every time you pull one, maybe the first 2 might not, but as you start to pull them, marbles will fall. Some marbles are good, some marbles are bad. The marbles that give you madness, when you have so much madness, you go crazy and just want to drop as many marbles as possible. But the goal and objective of this game, if I can find, because everybody's going to have pictures of the tower on here. If I can find what the cards look like. Yeah, I'm not seeing them on here. So what happens is a location comes out. Do they have it here? It doesn't say. Okay, yeah, there's locations upside down. It comes out in actually right here. Okay, your goal for every location, it says this effect is happening, and then on your board you need to roll a 1, 2, 3, and then a 1 and a 6 can go into any of these other two spots out of your dice. But you have to get a 1, 2, and a 3 every single time. So you're rolling a specific thing to get it, and your whole goal is to get as much victory in those locations as possible without going insane. I like this game. I think it's fun. The major issue I have with it is that no matter what, you're rolling the same thing. Each location should have a roll requirement saying, "Oh, you need two 4s and 2 5s, and that's your requirement." Or, it needs 3 of the same number. And so, like, it would be more interesting if there was a variety. That's the only thing that feels dissatisfying. Other than that, I really do like this game. Tower Madness is getting a 6. It's good, but it's just not something that I'm going to be like, oh my god, everybody's got to play it, because some people may not like that theme. Trial by Trolley. This is a Cyanide and Happiness game where basically it's that old dilemma of, oh, I'm the train conductor and I'm going to pull the switch to go over there to kill one person instead of killing the 5 that are on my track. Except for what it does is it forces you to pick one or the other track, and each team is building their track to make sure that you don't want to drive down it. So, as an example, in this case, that's in another language. Great, that's not going to help me. That's in German. That's not going to help me. Whatever, like let's say on one side it's Hitler, but also on that same track is a guy who's going to have the cure for cancer. And so you're like, oh man, what do I do here with that? Do I kill him and the guy to kill cancer? And then on the other side, it's like, oh, well, there's a puppy on that track. I don't want to run over a puppy. So it's like you're having to challenge your beliefs every time you go to do this, and it's just fun. It's just pure fun. And so I'm going to give this one a 7. I think it's interesting and fun. That hasn't played yet. Want to play. I'm going to skip that. Twilight Imperium. So this is a game that has a long backstory. Twilight Imperium is one of those games that people talk about in the gaming industry. And a lot of people, you look at this board and you go, holy crap, there's a lot going on. And there is. The biggest problem with Twilight Imperium is the time it takes to play it and how much downtime there is. Because if I was to play it by myself and everybody's turns was automated, the game would probably only take an hour or two. Not a big problem. But when you're playing with 6 people and all their turns take an hour or two, like overall, you're playing a 10-hour game. Or, it's just how it is. So this game has that problem. I know it's been reduced in the 4th edition a little bit, but it's still not as much as it could be. So I've never actually played a full game of Twilight Imperium, which is really sad. I've played it like 3-4 times, and I've never played a full game. So Twilight Imperium will get... I'm going to get flack for this. What do I want to give this? I'm going to give it a 4. I don't know if it's worth playing. It's too much of a time investment to play. And on that note, that's why I bought Twilight Inscription, which is like a 2-hour version doing something similar in that same universe, but I haven't played it yet. It's on my list. I know how to play it. I'm going to be playing it soon. Yeah. Actually, I recently played for the first time. I really love it. It's the pedantic party game about correcting people. So the host makes a statement, and you're trying to correct him, being like, actually, that's not what happened. It was this. and you get points if you get it correct. The more pedantic and correct you are, the more chance that you'll win. So like if you're correcting people's about nerdy facts all the time, this is the game for you. I really like it. I think it's interesting. I think the one problem with it is eventually you will run out of questions if you're the person who owns the game, because you are always playing it, so you will eventually get through everything and you'll be like, oh, I know that answer. It was this because that's what was said last time. I don't have that great of a memory, but I still feel like that's going to be a problem for me. I'm going to give this, for right now, I'm giving it a 7. It'll probably drop down to a 6 as time goes on. Unfair. Unfair is really close to being what I wanted from a roller coaster game as a card game. You are building up your park in front of you in a row of cards, adding expansions onto those rides, adding concessions, things to make them better. It's really good. It's fun. There's some problems with the way the game works, but I feel like overall it's a very enjoyable and fun game. I just wish you could lay down more cards, and I wish there were like simpler things that you could also get more points off of, because I think the game could benefit from that. But yeah, like it's a really interesting game, and I think they have something really good there in their system. And so for this, I'm going to give Unfair a 7. Okay, I'm gonna skip. No, I shouldn't skip that. Okay, Unlock. Unlock is a escape room in a box. I've played Exit, and I've played Unlock, and both of those are both escape rooms. I really didn't like Exit. Unlock is the one that I did like. I think it's very enjoyable. The only problem with these type of things is you get to play it once. It's once, and then the game is done. And then you have to give it to someone else for them to do it with their group. But you most likely played with your entire group already playing that. So, like, it's a good game. I think everyone should experience it once. So I'm going to put it in 6, because I think, like, you should play an Unlock game. But it's nothing like, woo, man, this is amazing, unless you're going to buy them all and slowly go through them. But that would be a very expensive habit, even though I know that each of those games are only like 12 to 15 bucks. They're cheaper. Uno. I'm going to give... No, just kidding. I'm going to give Uno a 5. I think it's right in the middle. It's fine. It's good. You can play it. Whatever. Unpub. Unpub is a great game for conversing with people. So I like to design board games, and other people that I play a lot of board games with love board games. Unpub is a game about publishing board game. What's going to happen is the cards. Do they not have any images on here? Oh, they do. Okay. It's a social party game, and what you're going to be doing is each card has a theme, a mechanic, and some type of thing like component or board or whatever that how the game works. And what you're going to do is you're going to use 3 different cards to make up a game, and you're going to pitch it to everyone at the table. And everybody's going to be like, yes, I want to play their game. Their game was the best. They win the point for that round, and then you go to the next round. And then people keep you go around the table, and everybody gets to do this so many times. So Unpub, I think, is a great game. I think it's really good for like idea floating and working on stuff. I use it all the time for like just looking at the different things that people could come up with, because it's fun. I've actually gotten a couple game ideas out of that. I'm actually going to give that a 7. I think it's really good. Ikari, you says Uno is a 10 out of 10 game for you. I can understand why you'd like Uno. Uno was one of my favorite of the classics back in when I was a child. It was Uno and Clue. Those were my 2 main ones. But to me, Uno's nothing that I will pay attention to when I play. I will just sit there and play, and I have zero investment in that game. Unsettled. Unsettled is a heavy heavy game, but I love it. It's great. There's a bunch of different scenarios and a bunch of different planets, and each planet has 3 different scenarios that you can go through, and they have things that help you make your own. But you're basically exploring this planet, building laboratories to get better at stuff. You're going to be investigating and checking out the areas around. You have a little robot that'll move around and help you with some stuff too. Your goal is to figure out the issue that you have on the planet and get off and go to the next one. It can be hard to balance and manage everything because you're up against a clock, but it is a very enjoyable experience if you have someone or multiple people that'll play it with you seriously. I'm going to give Unsettled an 8, even though I've only played some of the content. I've played 3 planets out of the 6 that I have, and I've played 3 missions on one, 2 on another, and 1 on another. So I've only played 6 out of the 12 missions or whatever that's available. No, 18 missions that are available to me, and I have more stuff coming from Kickstarter soon. So, Unstable Unicorns. This game is utter trash. I tried playing this once and I hated it. I thought it was horrible. The art is cute and adorable, and I look at how cute that art is. I love it, but that's really the only redeemable aspect about that game to me. I think it's really bad. I'm putting it at 2. I understand why people made it. Like, the art is cute and all, but no. Ikari says, I understand your score. I'm just thinking the games are highly replayable, easy for people to jump in, etc. are pretty good games, even if they aren't eternally entertaining. A lot of your other games look way more fun to get into. Yeah. So I agree with you. I agree that Uno has a lot of replayability because that's how it was designed in that space where you can just sit and play it. And I think a lot of family games have that aspect where you could just play them over and over again and they're good. Because enough is different about them most times. And usually Uno, it's the players, the people you play with is different every time. So it makes that experience enjoyable because it's a new person. Where a lot of times, a lot of the games that I tend to play, unless they're social games, it's the game sets itself up differently so that the replayability is built into the game and not the people you're playing with. Yeah, I understand that nostalgia is pretty hard. So there's a couple that I mark probably higher or lower on here just because of my love and nostalgia for stuff. Viceroy. Viceroy is a game that, for some reason, people don't like. And I don't understand why. I think it's great. Wow, this is a really bad-looking pyramid. So here's all the components to the game. Let me see if... There we go. There we got something going on. Okay, so what happens is there's 4 cards that come out. People are bidding the coins of red, blue, green, or yellow to buy that card. You all reveal. If you don't match anybody, great. You throw it in and you grab that card. That card will come back into your personal supply. And then on your turn, you can pay the resources on that card to build it in front of you. Each level that you play on, you're paying more resources to play it. And that reward, or that thing that's on that level, because each card, let me find a card. Each card has 4 things on it. So if you play it at level 1, you get the bottom reward. Level 2, you get the second reward. 3, you get the third reward. 4th, you get the 4th. And if you play in the 5th level, you get 1 through 3. Or you get a different reward that's listed in the rule book, which is, I think, like 15 or 12 victory or something like that. I think it's 15. But you're playing these cards in a stack like this, and you're building a pyramid to try to get them really high. And so you get better rewards the higher you go. The game is super enjoyable. It's very fun, very interesting looking, and I've never seen any game like it before. Natalie and I love Viceroy. She calls it Vickery because it's just really fun to do that. I'm giving this an 8. It really deserves it. It's a great game. Villagers, have not played it yet. That's in my pile of stuff that I need to figure out how to play. Vivid Memories. Vivid Memories is a game where you have this thing that kind of looks like a brain in front of you, and what you're doing is you're collecting memory shards from the center, working your way in on those boards, and you're putting them into your board, and you get a chance to like move them around and stuff by doing certain actions or how you pull them from the center. If you end up pulling one of those boards from the center as you remove them, I'll zoom this in so you can see. If you get one of these boards, you replace one of your scoring at the end of the rounds things with doing that instead. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make connections in your brain from color to color and piece to piece. It's kind of hard to see on this board, but by the end of the game, your whole board will be filled with stuff, and you're going to be scoring points all around it by the connections and the memories that you've made using the memory shards, the shards of your memory. It's an interesting game, and it's really cool how it works and functions. There's some confusion of how it works sometimes with people because it gets kind of confusing in how you have to place them and how they get triggered and move. But I think it's an interesting game. I'm giving it a 6. I don't think it's for everyone, but it's something that I do like to play. Waterworks. This is a classic. If you can't tell that this is a classic by this cover, what does that tell you? I played this game a lot as a kid. This is how the game works. You have a tap, and you have the spout or the spigot. And what you're doing is you set the handle, the spout or the tap on one side, and you place it, and you have it oriented one way, and you set the end of the faucet to spray out on a specific direction. And then what you're doing is you're building pieces in between that to connect them. And if I don't like what you're doing, I can play leak cards on your leaky pipes on your connections that are the same, and your pipe will spring a leak. And basically, as it springs a leak, you can repair with a wrench or replace it with another pipe that's the same size or shape or whatever. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make it all the way to 10 before someone else can. I agree with you, Ikari. You says it looks like Pipestream for Windows 95. It totally does. It would not surprise me if they got the idea from this game, because this game is when did this come out? This is so old. Yeah, 1972. So I also love that this is the old version here. The tray where you keep your dice is a bathtub. It's so adorable, and I have this version and I love it. I will never get rid of this game because this is my nostalgia pick, and I'm giving this a 6. It's so good nostalgically speaking. We Need to Talk. We Need to Talk is a game about basically sitting someone down and telling them that they have an issue. Those issues could be as simple as we need to talk about your uncontrollable interpretive dance issues. But you can't tell them what their issue is. It's sort of like a hard to breach topic. And so you give them clues about what you want to talk about and be like, well, we need to talk about the way you move. We need to talk about the way you do this. We need to talk about this. And then they take a guess after everyone says something, and you give them a hot or cold on the on this spectrum to let them know how close they are with how they're guessing. And the goal is to get them to guess, but you are the person that do not want them to get it on your turn. You want them to piece it together over multiple turns and then figure it out. That's a fun game. I really enjoy that one. That one gets a 7. Welcome to the Dungeon. Welcome to the Dungeon is a game that I got rid of. I don't think it's a bad game per se. It's just really... Oh, that's not the right game. It's just really, really simple because you're going to be using your cards and stuff to defeat monsters in a sequence of dungeon type stuff. but like it's not like what happens is everybody's putting monsters into a pile, and then you're like saying like I can take that pile, and then you have to go through the pile and hope you can survive. It it can feel like you're not playing a game, which is the big problem because like one person's going on that adventure, even though you're all building the pile. I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna give it a 4 right now because that's how I feel. Wild Style. Wild Style is a game about street tagging. So you are going around this map, quote unquote, and tagging places in the city. You're doing that by collecting a sequence of 3 of the similar image of a card, and then you're playing that card to go and put one of your tags out. You get so many tags per round, and you're trying to place them out before other people in certain regions so that you can get like so many in a row or do certain patterns or have some connectivity. And you're trying to gain the rewards of doing that. I've only played this 2 players. I think this game would be stellar and very fun with 3 to 4. You can play this both real time, so like as fast as you can go, or you can play it back and forth as a turn-based thing. I think it could work great both ways. We played it back and forth because we were learning. I think it's super fun. I think it's a good game. I'm giving that... Right now I'm giving it a 6. Okay, Wild Serengeti. I skipped that one. This is a game about making a documentary about African animals. So there's a board in the middle of the table, and you are placing your little token over on this board to bring out animals, or grabbing cards from here. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to, as a videographer, you're going around and capturing moments to make the best documentary as possible. And by doing that, you're trying to move animals. You're pulling out animals and bringing them to specific locations. You're trying to get them to like be in specific habitats or in certain lines or next to each other. It is a very fun game. I like this game way more than I thought I would because I thought it was just going to be a really easy game. It ended up being pretty darn good, and I like it. It's going to an 8. Wingspan. Wingspan is a very popular game right now in the tabletop gaming community. What you do in this game is you, over the course of a series of rounds, there's 4 rounds. Each round you get so many actions. I think the turn 1 you get like 9 actions or something. And then each round it goes down by 1. And you are attracting birds to your habitats. You have 3 different habitats that you're trying to bring them to. You have different types of birds, and every game, the victory that you get, there's round victory. Like you'll get a victory round 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are different based off of different stats, and then you also get victory for the birds you do and like eggs that they lay and all this stuff. So you're like basically building an engine for your birds so that every time you play an action, a bunch of birds trigger and they have a bunch of other sub actions that are happening on your turn so that you can get the most out of your aviary. So I think that Wingspan's a really good game. It's a little hard for some people at the beginning, but I'm going to give it an 8. I think it deserves it. Wits and Wagers. Wits and Wagers is a simple betting game. You pull out a card out of the stack. It says something like, the population of the U.S. in 2022 was this. And then everybody on the cards write down, 5 million, 7 million, 2 million, whatever they think it is. And then we all reveal it. We lay it in the order from lowest to highest. And everybody bids coins on what they think the right answer is. You have 2 bidding locations you can do, and you place them out. You put a stack of coins of however much you want to bid on those, and if you're correct, you win a bunch of money back. If you don't, you lose the money. and it's all about just making good bets and choosing to bet wisely. I don't really care for betting games, but this is a good one because even if you do not know the answer, someone else may choose that answer. Like I know one time I didn't know the answer for something. Three people wrote the exact same thing down. I'm like, well, that's got to be it. And everybody bet on that, and everybody won a bunch. But like, if people are betting on me and I didn't know the right answer, they would lose their money. But the person who did get the right answer, who wrote the closest answer on their card, still gained value from it. So, Wits and Wagers is fun. I'm going to probably give it a 5. I think that there's a Wits and Wagers out there that's for like it's superheroes version. It's not that the questions are superheroes. It's that the way that you instead of you bid in two positions, but then you also have like a hero that you can place that does certain actions too, like lets you shift stuff or move things, so that way it kind of can mitigate some problems. I think that would be better. Okay, Wonderland War. This is one of my newer games, and I really think it's very good. Let me pull out a picture of the board. So it's a bag building area control game. It switches between two modes. There's the Tea Party phase, where you're collecting items and tokens and putting them in your bag, and resources and stuff. And then there's the War phase, where you are using all the pieces that you put out earlier to attack the other factions and trying to gain control over regions. Kind of think Risk in that way, but there's only 5 regions, and you're waging war with what's in that region. If you win that region, you get victory, and you get to place a little castle in there. And you play this over the course of 3 rounds, doing Tea Party, War, Tea Party, War, Tea Party, War. And at the end of those rounds, whoever has the most victory between all the different things that you've won and all the stuff that happens over the course of the game, you win. I think that the bag building in itself, like going around and putting stuff in the bag and then pulling them out and placing them down, is very satisfying. And being able to make the choices of when to stop and when to continue, I think is very rewarding in the wars. So Wonderland Wars is going to get, I want to give it an 8.5. I'm going to give it an 8. 8. I think with a few more playthroughs, and I do have a mini expansion coming, I think that 8 might become a 9. But right now it's an 8 for me. Woolly Mammoth. Woolly Mammoth looks like a children's game. It's drawn like a children's game, but it actually has a lot of strategy to it. You have 4 members of your family, and on your turn you're laying down cards that move you forward or backwards on the board. What you're trying to do is you're trying to go far enough that you push the mammoth off the edge, but not so far that you sacrifice by sending one of your people off the end. And every time that a mammoth falls off the edge, and you are able to essentially kill it, you get meat, and that meat can help you mitigate some stuff, because you have to feed your family, and then your board will extend. So you're trying to get to fully extend your board and get enough meat to win. So yeah, because I think so much meat counts as victory, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while since I've played it, but I do enjoy the game. I think it's very fun. I'm going to put it at a 6 because I think it's very fun to play. I don't think everybody needs to have this or has to play it, but I think it is very enjoyable. Wormholes I haven't played yet. That's next on my to-play list. Yamatai. Yamatai is a very gorgeous game visually. It looks really nice. The pieces are nice and chunky. The symbology is really cool. What's going to be happening in this game is, depending on if you're playing a 2, 3, 4, or 5 player game, I think you can play up to 5, turn orders are going to work a little bit different, but generally, like in a 2-player game, what's going to happen is there's these face-up things on the right side there. I'll make this bigger so you can see. Oops. Yeah, there's these tokens here, and each of them have a number. You're going to grab them, and then you're going to On your turn, you're going to play them and do those actions. And then when you go to put those back, they decide your next turn order. Depending on what you do that next turn. And your goal is you're going to be spreading out through the map, and you're going to be removing the tokens on the board. And you can either remove a token or build something. You can't do both. And you're trying to build certain things, and you need to have requirements. Like the little island needs to be surrounded by certain colors to build something. And you're trying to build as much of your stuff in a contiguous group as once. And so the more you do that with, the better off you're going to be for scoring points. And it can be a struggle because there's also characters that you want to get that will give you bonuses on building or on victory or ships. And these actions that you do, the higher they are, which means the later you go in turn order, the better they are. So like you have to balance a lot of that stuff throughout the game. Last time I played this, I think Natalie kicked my ass. But it's a super fun game. I like it. I'm giving it I'll give it a 7. I think it's good enough to get 7. Zombie Dice. Very, very, very short, easy game. Here's what the game comes with. It's very, just 3 red dice, 6 green dice, 4 yellow dice. You take the die thing, the die box, you roll it, and you grab out 3, and you roll 3 dice on the table. You're trying to get as many brains as possible without getting 3 hits. There's hits on every dice, but there's, I think, 3 on the red, 2 on the yellow, and 1 on the green. And what you're trying to do is you want to build up as many brains as possible. The footsteps are rerolls, and then the explosion is stopping. So what you want to do is, without getting 3 of those bangs or hits or whatever, you want to get as much brains as possible. And then at any time on your turn when it's about time for you to roll, you can go, I'm going to stop, and you add up. So you go, I'm going to stop, I have 5 brains, 5, and you put everything in the dice and pass it on to someone else. You keep going around until somebody hits 13. That's it. I think it's 13. It could be 21. I don't remember. It's one of those two. It's very short, filler game, really nice. I'm going to give it a 7. I think it's great for filler material. It's not something I play all the time, but it's something that I think is a nice filler. Okay, and the last one I'm going to talk about is Zombies. Zombies was the game that I got into first as the hobby. Like, this was my first hobby game that was not like the classics. So, game's really simple. You start in the middle of town. Every turn you flip over a tile, lay down the tile, and you place out whatever zombies or tokens that it says. And it's basically a zombie game. You walk around, you kill zombies, you collect tokens for killing as many zombies. You want to collect as many as you can and get to the helicopter pad. And then once you get to the helicopter pad, you get launched off, and whoever has the most zombies at that point wins. Like, it's pretty simple. It's a really simple game, but it taught me a lot of the mechanics that I see in, like, I don't see in classic games, and I see now in these games, the games that I play today. I still own this game. I own this one and 3 expansions for it. I haven't played it in years, but it's one that I will always probably keep because it was my starter game to the hobby. So I'm going to probably give this a 5. It's not bad. It's worth playing, but nothing special. It's only special to me, but it's not that special. And Zombie Town was I'm going to give Zombie Town a 3, sorry. But Zombies gets 5. That was my list of all my games. I'm going to do a bonus game right now because I do not own this, and there's a reason I don't own it, but I want to talk about it. And that is Betrayal at House on the Hill. Okay? This game is very highly rated. Right now it's a 7.0. It was made in 2004. So that tell you of its timing. People love this game. I do not. I do not own this. I will never own this game. I do want to play the legacy version of Betrayal because I think that will fix 90% of the issues that I have. But I will seriously, I never want to play this game. Like, it was horrible. And I will give me 1 second. I will explain why. So let me pull up an image here to show you. So this is how the game looks near the end. So as you're playing, you start with like the main level, the upstairs, and the basement, and all you're doing is moving and putting tiles. Sounds like zombies, right? You're basically putting tiles out, and then in that room an event can happen or whatever. You draw an event card, or you can get special cards, and you and all these people are exploring this mansion. Great, cool. Eventually, when enough omens show up, every time an omen shows up, you have to roll these dice. The number, the omen tracker goes down every time an omen shows up, and as soon as you roll above what the omen is, it will, it'll trigger the haunt. Okay, and the haunt is a switching point in the game where you go from exploring the mansion to doing a scenario. That shouldn't be a problem. Like, doing a scenario is not a big deal. Here's the issue. Out of the 10 or 12 times I've played this game, I have had multiple scenarios that I've had to replay. And each of those scenarios did a horrible job with explaining everything. So, as an example, one of the things that for us, we're at Red, because I wasn't the trader, we were just the normal people, and it said, all the players need to get down and get out of the house. You need to make it to the main level, unlock the door, and leave. Okay? And so what we did is somebody was grabbing some book that we needed in a room. I'm here down at the main floor. I'm like, okay, I'll run out and unlock this door, and on your turn, you can walk out the door right away, and then all of us will follow you because we'll all be able to leave that next turn. I go down, I go and unlock the door, and then it's the trader's turn, and he walks out the door and goes, I win. And I'm like, what? And he said, all I needed to do was leave the house. There was no way for us to win unless we unlocked the door and all left. So the first player of the people unlocked the door and walked out, and everybody else walked out before the trader walked out. That was the only way we could have won. And there was nothing in our rules that said anything about that. And so we basically screwed ourselves over just because we didn't know all the information. Every scenario in this game has that problem. There's a piece of information or multiple pieces of information that's lacking from understanding. And that's why I hate this game. I understand why people can like it because it's fun, but if you take games serious at all, this is not the game for you. And that's why, I really don't like Betrayal on House on the Hill. This game will get a 2 for me. It's not so bad as, hey, this is, the worst game ever, or this is, I can't believe people spend time. It's fine. It sucked. It's just a bad game. If the beginning portion's fine. The second half is horrible. I do not want to play it. I avoid it. I think it is a horrible, horrible game. Now, I just wanted that was like my bonus game that I wanted to talk about because it frustrates me to no end. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to just look right now at my games and look at what my top items are just to finish it off. Apply filters. Okay, and my ranking. Let's see what... Okay, so let's go through my 10s through 9s and just kind of say them real quick so you kind of understand what the games are that I like and I focus on. So, Tang Garden, tile placement and other mechanisms. That's my number 10. That's my best game right now. Hex XL, social game, party kind of game, fast pace action, awesome. Sentinels of the Multiverse, strategic card playing game where it's everyone versus a villain. Star Trek Attack Wing, miniature combat game that has a lot of building of a deck before you sit down and play. Smash Up, a card combination game where you take two decks, throw them together, smash them together, and then play them on bases to score points. Lords of Waterdeep, worker placement, collect cubes, pay cubes to do stuff. Bunny Kingdom, I don't even know how to describe that game. Area control, I guess. Dice Thrones, it's a combat roll dice, Yahtzee style. Dominion card deck builder, build decks as playing. Tidal Blades, worker placement with dice rolling. Menace Among Us, hidden trader game with mechanics of trying to save the ship or being a trader and crash the ship. Canvas, an art combination game where you're trying to get a series of things together, symbols and stuff. Cartographers, you're drawing a map onto a piece of paper. Tesseract, you're all working together cooperatively to take the cube and contain it all before it explodes. Marvel Dice Thrones, I explained Dice Thrones up there. And Everdell is a card tableau building game where you're managing resources to try to build the most efficient and best victory gaining town. So those were my 10s and 9s, and as you can see from that explanation, is I have a wide variety of game types that exist in that 9, and my 8 even gets even more extensive. And you can see I have a lot of 8s actually. Like I have a lot of 9, 8s, 7s. I have quite a bit, but like 10 through 7, I recommend to everyone, and I have tons of games in those categories. Like I'm glad that you guys were all able to come and join me, and I finally made it through Z. Like I'm finally done with all my games, so now I can get back to streaming games again, which I'm excited to do. I'm going to do some more video games. I'm going to hopefully do some board games, both on the computer as well as on table. That might take some time for me to work on, but I'm excited to do that. So that was my list. Thank you for joining me. And if any of these games sounded interesting to you, let me know. We can talk about it. We can go through those. Yeah, I got to get that overhead camera in place. Well, I do. Like, this camera works really good, and I'm debating about getting a second one and running one up the ceiling from above so that I can just set out a table so I can get my front view, and then I can get a top-down view. Yes, but I need to figure out how to get a close-up view as well. That's something I'm trying to figure out. But I definitely want to get like a tabletop setup so I can play some solo games, so you guys can check that out. Because I think that the solo space is really a good way to play board games on streams and stuff. But no, thank you for joining me. I'm glad you guys were able to make it. Thanks for all the talking back and forth from Ikari and Angela. Thank you guys, and I will see you guys next time when I think I'm going to be playing either Backpack Hero or Warlock. You'll find out. I'll post something about it on Facebook soon, and we'll go from there. Okay, see you later.